Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Man's World podcast. Thank you for joining us here again for another week, where we're going to be talking about polygamy and the benefits of polygamy for men, and yes, benefits for women as well. I'm going to be stepping in as moderator or facilitator. Our other co-host Micaiah is on a trip, so she's enjoying us today. But we'll see her next week, hopefully. And so we're just going to jump right into it. And again, I'll put real quick for people that are watching or people that joined late. We have you can come on our show if you want to click the link that I'm going to put in the chat and pin it there. But if you're afraid to come on the show or type your question in the chat, there's a form you can click to submit your questions anonymously. So if you have any questions related to polygamy or anything else that you might want to ask us from the previous shows that you wanted to ask because you didn't watch it live or whatever, or you forgot to ask, please, we want to have this be a discussion. We want to go back and forth, and we want to be able to answer the concerns that you have. So click the link to either come on the show for the restream link, or the second link is for the forum, so you can submit an anonymous question. We'll have it right here, pop up on our screen, and we'll be able to address it. So with that, we're going to jump right into it, and I'm gonna go to Mubarak to kick us off. Tell us about, when we hear polygamy, tell us about the benefits of polygamy and maybe some of the benefits that people don't necessarily think of when they think about polygamy.
All right. So there's lots of benefits. And for those people who are automatically anti-polygamy or against it, just if you listen through, if you try to just listen carefully, I think by the end of this little rant, I think you'll at least see that there definitely are some benefits. Okay, so the benefits for men, for instance, okay, and because believe it or not, there are some men who are anti-polygamy. They're just at which, I mean, I have to question some of those men, but anyway, so you can for the men, of course, number one, let's not ignore it. You are able to scratch that itch or whatever it is. You have one person that you're in a woman who you're in a committed relationship with, a wife, but those desires or needs for another woman, just for intimacy purposes, don't go away. For some people, they're stronger than others, but that is an option to where you're not guilty for being with another woman. You're not cheating. You are honoring both women. You're letting the woman you know that you're with, and really you should let her know up front. But before or when you get another wife, it's not like that other wife has to hide or anything during family functions or holidays or anything like that. She's not the person who has to duck her head down, when you stop at the stoplight and you see somebody that knows y'all, like they do this the side chick who she can't necessarily, go out, and you can't have her on your arm because she's not your wife. So there's a benefit there, actually, for the men and women. But for the men, you can scratch that itch that you need. Also, for the men, you can have additional help inside of your family, inside of your family unit, inside of your home, inside of your family structure, to where a man wouldn't necessarily be able to help you like that. So, for instance, if you wanted to have someone who to help with the upkeep and the housekeeping of your home. Now, I would say women are not just housekeepers. That's one thing that they're very good at. That's one of the main things that men, so women can listen carefully. That's one thing that men like and they value, as far as a woman being able to run and manage the home and the inner workings of the home. So even though women might think, well, I'm not a housekeeper, that is something that men are looking for. That's something that men appreciate and they value. So that's something that, especially for those women who maybe say, I'm not the housekeeper type. Well, having another woman who's able to manage that reduces the load, or may completely relieve one woman from doing that, and the other woman can kind of be that way. So that's another option. Because, for instance, if you say, how much would a housekeeper cost? If you just brought in, like, I don't want to say a nanny, but like some people have I'm thinking like the guy, what's the guy from Fresh Prince?
Frederick?
Yeah, whatever his name was. Anyway,
Frederick,
someone
yeah.
like that who kind of really takes care of everything.
You talking
Like,
Jeffrey?
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey. Yeah. So, for instance, in a man's, most men, most real men are not going to want a little Jeffrey guy running, moving about freely through their house. They're not having that. But to have a woman be able to do that freely, it's easy. So they say, well, hire the maid. But what's the issue that women have? They don't like little, Molly maid, tiptoeing and prancing around and, around her husband. So the thing is, that is a benefit. I don't want to say that's the only benefit, but that's one benefit. Like as far as raising and taking care of the children, if you want to homeschool your children or teach your children, that's another thing that they can help with that. Instead of, a private teacher is going to cost you, $50,000 or more a year, just to pay them, and you don't get any additional benefits. They just come and teach and then they leave. So there's these things. So for the men, and honestly, for the men, that is, and another thing. So if the man wants more children, but the woman necessarily, your wife might not she may not be able to have any, or she might not want to have any. But you have other women who do want to have children. Maybe they like, they can easily, well, not easily, but they can go with having children and again and again and again, and they like that feeling. They don't mind it or whatever. So you have these different type of women. So you can satisfy both things, where you can have the children, and you don't necessarily have to say, well, because the wife that I'm with doesn't want children or can't have children, then I have to get rid of her in order to, settle that need that I have. So for the men, I think this is probably the main benefits and probably the extent of it. Honestly, the benefits for men are not that much. They're not that much, but for the women, if I can just run through the women real quick, you can. Now the benefits for women is number one. The single woman can select the best father for her children. If she's going to have children, she can select the best father without restriction, really, unless that person has 4 wives already. There is a point in which maybe she would have to, because a woman going into polygamy, she's going to reduce the amount of time, you might say, with her husband. So that's something that she's trading already, but she may have to reduce the amount of resources or something like that. But there is a level, for the most part, that a woman can marry almost any man she wants to. For instance, let me just give a little sidebar here, real quick. So let me ask Jafar, because because so right now Jafar is in the camp of, basically, he's not necessarily saying that definitely you want to get married again, I got to get married again, I'm looking for another wife. So right now, pretty much, if a woman proposed to Jafar, and I'm speaking for you right now, just to get to,
right,
you would probably say, I'm really not interested, because there's lots of stuff that comes into that. Now, if that same woman said, I'm interested in getting married, but I don't need any maintenance, I don't really need any time. If you have the time for me, I'm willing to take it, but she reduces the amount of burden on your end to 0. There's a certain point where you'd be like, yeah, all right. I mean, if you're saying that, I don't have to do A, because it's a huge responsibility for a man to take on a wife. So, and I don't want to put you on the spot like that. Maybe I shouldn't ask you directly, but what I'm saying is, because I don't want to look at this dude Jafar, he's kind of sleazy, because men do that. They'd be like, and so a woman basically is getting nothing in return. I don't want to say nothing, because she does get a husband who she thinks is very good. The point is this: there is a level, even though Jafar is not looking, there is a level to which a woman can give back some of the things that normally she would get, to where Jafar would be like, consider it. So what I'm saying is that if a woman she's attractive, she's in your range of things people you would consider. Yeah, there is a level. Maybe you were not comfortable with saying what that level is. That where you would be like, all right, Maybe so right now, ladies, let me let y'all know there is a price in which you can get Jafar to marry you. Are you willing?
So let me jump in here real quick and just give a different take on what you just said, Mubarak. So I'm going to come from a different angle. One of the benefits, or one of the major benefits that I see with polygamy or polygyny, is the structure. It provides structure. If you look out throughout society right now, there's not a whole lot of structure. You got men and women jumping all around, doing all these different things. Polygamy, in and of itself, the practice of it, provides structure, protection, and covering. This is a massive benefit, where you might, what's the number? Or women outnumber men, 5 to 1, 6 to 1 globally? Something crazy like this.
I think globally it's a little closer to 50-50 globally.
50-50?
Yeah. There's some societies, there are cultures that it's really imbalanced, but globally, I think women still outnumber men, but it's a little closer to 50-50.
Okay, fair enough. The bottom line is there's more women than there are men. So there's not enough men for the women, which again, polygamy is going to create this type of structure and balance to where you can cover a woman. A woman can come under a man's protection. You feel what I'm saying? Like what you was just saying, Mubarak. She can come under a man's protection and legally, without any real drawback, you feel what I'm saying? And she can insert herself in and she can get protected. She can then build her own family. You guys can build out a family nucleus like this. Massive, massive benefit that I think is kind of swept to the side a lot of times, where you got people, and one of the main reasons I think this is because men and women are not able to have that open conversation. But if they were able to have this open conversation with one another and be honest about what's really going on in the climate that's around us, I think it's a massive, massive benefit, because then you can protect and cover a lot of these women that are uncovered right now.
So. And there's a lot of like individual benefits that we will get into, I'm sure. But like the biggest benefit that I see is just for society in general, especially us that are, we're African Americans. We know about the Black community in America. We know about the things that are plaguing our community, about, single households, daddy's going out for milk and never coming back. And, we have all these issues, right? And it's really much because our family structure has been broken down and cast to the side. And, to your point about, like, you were talking about, how many women there are to men in that ratio. But the real question is for women to ask themselves, and you have to ask a woman, how many good men are there to good women? And we hear this all the time. There's no good men out there. And that is true, because most of the time when you're talking about getting into your 30s, like a man, we don't really get old until we hit 50, and we're like, all right, that guy's getting old. But we're talking about women, like there's a clock, there's a ticking clock on you guys. It's a reality of the situation. Men don't like hearing it, but it's the reality. Once you start hitting 30, and you're talking about whether you're single in your 30s, and you guys know this that are in this situation, it's very hard for you to find a good single man. So what usually happens out there? A lot of women target good, not single men. Become a side chick, you become the mistress, you become whatever, right? And a lot of people don't even know this, that you're already in polygamy, men and women. You're taking care of this woman over here, but she's a secret. You go there, maybe 2 or 3 times a month on the weekends. You tell your wife, I got a business trip, whatever you're doing, the cheat, which is, as Mubarak alluded to, like you're dishonoring yourself, you're dishonoring your wife, you're potentially breaking up a good family that you have, right? And now polygamy solves a lot of these issues. It brings the family structure back together. And as Mubarak said, now when you're looking at the women who are, now you're in your 30s, maybe 40s, you're single. Because you are single, you are already getting yourself into a certain lifestyle where you actually don't need the things that when you were single when you were 20, right? So now if you have these things, like, you know what? I actually don't need X, Y, and Z. That actually becomes a bargaining chip for you, right? Whatever it may be. Maybe you are totally self-sufficient. You're boss babe. You started businesses. You found ways to hustle, support yourself. whether you have kids or whatever, guess what? You don't have to go to somebody, yeah, I need you to take care of me 100%. You could use that to find, like Mark said, find a man. Like, you know what? I don't have to settle. I want a man that has this amount of knowledge, this type of charisma, this amount of looks, this amount of income, whatever it is that your things are. You can actually target those people and come to them with a proposal that actually fits directly into the lifestyle you have with little changes.
And let me clean something up. Let me clean something up real quick, because you were saying that most men are not good men. I think this. Most men are not at that level to where they can actually take on another wife. Like for us, it takes a little bit more time for us to mature and come into ourselves. You feel what I'm saying? To where mentally we're putting it all together. Physically, we're putting it together. Spiritually, we're more in tune and more in line. Whereas women, because they go and start quicker, a 20-year-old woman is not the same as a 20-year-old man. So when a woman gets to that age and a man is 20, he's still trying to play basketball, still doing all this and doing all that. Not saying that he's a bad person. He just hasn't come of age. So when a man comes of age and a woman, she ages out. Now this is where the argument becomes, or the discussion. They're like, oh, where are all the good men? She's aged out. She's already aged out. She's in her late 30s or whatever. Probably got a couple of straggly, I don't want to say straggly, but probably got a couple of baby daddies or some kids or some failed relationships. Now she's looking for a more stable situation. And the men that she's looking at are in their mid 40s, early 50s and stuff like that. These men are more capable now, more capable. And then she wants to be able to try to, hit. And then she has, like you said, Jaffer, she's probably built up some resources or built up her own position to where she can come in and make it way easier for the man at that point, to where he's like,
well, what happens with that is when that comes, I'm on the opinion that most men and most women, the good outweigh the bad, right? That, in my opinion, right? Yeah. But the problem is, right, is that at that 20-year age, that good man is, like you said, not in that position where someone's going to immediately see all the benefits of being with that person, right? And so the woman can't identify that, and men do it too. They can't identify that, okay, this person has all the tools that they're going to be what I need to be maybe in a few years or 30, right? So either they get together, break up, whatever, and it could be even these people's exes, their ex-wife or their a husband or whatever, that they just weren't at that time what they needed to be. Mm-hmm. But then they get to that point, but they're going to get, someone does see that potential in them. Like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and grab onto that. But that's the real point, is that by the time we get to these people that are, getting age, and again, we're not trying to say polygamy is only for old single people that have exes and can't find nobody. It's not. It's like there's benefits no matter what scenario you put it into it. Polygamy has benefits for the man and the woman. Like, for instance, we talked about like a man becoming like a man, like a young man becoming like a real man. You want to expedite that process? Put him in polygamy. He will overnight. He will grow up, right? A good man, like for instance, if a man has when you're young, you have a wandering eye and you're like, oh, look at this, Joan, look at that, Joan, whatever. Put him in polygamy. A good man, after a few months of polygamy, he's like, man, what? I don't see nobody. I see 2 5 kids. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I respectfully disagree with that. I'm respectfully disagree. But I noticed with men, we just seem to have wandering eyes no matter what. I think it's for.
Well, I mean, like that desire of like when you go to a man who's in polygamy, like, hey, I got somebody for you. They're like, whoa, bro, whoa.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, you would be, and for the, well, I'll save that for next week. This week we're about the benefits, the positives, about all the positives. So I would say that, but I will say this, because I don't want the women to get the wrong idea and think that, okay, the thing is you find the man that you want, because you don't ever have to settle. Actually, a woman doesn't really ever have to settle, except for if you really just don't have much to offer. But a woman who's capable, who has some benefits to her, she won't have to settle. She just may have to select someone who's already married. That's it. Yeah. And that's not really settling. But most women, you can almost secure 100% of the benefits for half of the work, for half of the responsibilities. So if you can leverage that. Now, I've seen it.
That's a good point.
Women can come and say they get the mahar, or the dowry that they want. They get the housing situation that they want. They get the maintenance situation that they want, just like if they were single.
Yeah.
The only difference is that 50% of the time, or 33% of the time, or 25% of the time, that of their husband's free time, he's spending it with them. Yeah. But I mean, so if you just value the thing that you value most is just a man in which you can be face to face with him, that's it, because that's the only thing that you're losing, just a big block of amount of time. Instead, that reduced amount of time, 50% or 33% or 25% at the lowest, you could focus in on that 25% of the time. For instance, instead of 7 days a week, 2 days a week, and you could make those 2 days the best 2 days of your week. You could make it awesome for you and for him. So, but that's the only negative, okay? But you could still get 100% of all the benefits.
That's
that's a really good point. Yeah, you don't have to settle. It's like this, for instance, if you had a job, you had to work 40 hours a week and you got $100 an hour. And then that job said, we're going to pay you $200 an hour, but you can only work 20 hours a week. Like, okay, you can
really want to go to work.
Yeah, you can spend that other time and say, no, I want my hours. I mean, you're getting paid more per hour. You're actually getting all those benefits for less work. And
think about that real quick. When you think about that, I mean, that's a really good point, because the time that you are away from the woman, she does not have the burden of the responsibility and the obligations. Let's say like you want your house spick and span clean. Let's say you want the kids in bed by this time, or you want this, or you want that, or you like your dinner prepared a certain way. She doesn't have to do any of this for 50% of the time. For 50% of the time. I mean, that is a tremendous benefit. And then when the man, does come to the home, she could have prepared. She has time to prepare. She has time to build up. She has time to do all these different things, like you said, to make that 50% of the time the best time. So this is a good benefit.
Yeah, look at this. So if we just think about what are the things, especially in our Western society, what are the things that cause divorce, right? A big one is infidelity.
Right.
Polygamy is something there that can help prevent infidelity from the man's side anyway, right? And then it's usually the man that cheats, or whatever. So it helps with that. It's not going to solve it, because some people just have issues and they can't control themselves, and that's a whole nother discussion. But for a man that's good, is trying to be sincere, it helps, like Hussein mentioned, it helps protect the man from that. So infidelity. When you're talking about, okay, a lot of marital problems come from financial issues, struggling financially. You as a woman can say, you know what, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to make sure that the guy I marry is financially secure and can take care of us, right? So you're already going to a situation like, okay, now that's not going to be a problem, right? And a lot of problems, like, and especially we have experience with this. Think about a lot of the arguments or issues that you might have with your significant other, and it comes down to a lot of different things about like communication, spending quality time with each other, and these sorts of things. So now, like Mubarak said, instead of you having to perform at this high level and communicate effectively and make sure your time is quality, and marriage is work. It is work, right? You're very lucky to get if you get in a situation where like you actually don't feel like you're working. It's just all natural. You're lucky if you have that. But marriage is work on both sides. Now, when you're talking about you only have to work part-time now, it's going to alleviate a lot of those issues. You know what? Because instead of, like, say, for instance, we do dumb stuff as men. We piss off women, right? And how many times, and contrary to that, what's going to ruin a relationship? A woman's going to say something that she don't necessarily mean, but it's going to hit a dagger in our heart, and we're going to hold, like, This is what happens. So a lot of things, right, boil down to a man not doing dumb stuff and a woman holding her tongue. Guess what? You have to do that for less time now, right? Less time, less incidents. So there's so many different things that we can go down the list of, like, why people get divorced, why relationships don't work. And you can say, you know what? Polygamy will help that. Polygamy will help that. Polygamy will help that.
This is also an unpopular thought, or I guess belief or understanding, but I'm going to go anyway. I'm going here, y'all. So this is another benefit that I see with the whole situation is if you have two women, every situation is different. Let's say these two women are quote unquote career driven. Let's say that they actually want to go out and work. Let's say that. If they wanted to go out and work and you guys, so the man is working, the two women got some little hustles or some side hustles. Truthfully, y'all could put your resources together to build out a bigger, greater business. But I know that this requires cooperation and people have to be on the team. But this is a big, massive benefit. You feel me? And let's say y'all wanted to buy a 12-acre lot of land. Each person gets their portion. The man, I mean, I'm assuming he's going to be more than capable himself, but it will take a lot longer without the cooperation and the participation of everyone. But if they all work together as a unit, you can get to that goal quicker. You feel what I'm saying? And this is a huge benefit because everyone's participating, because you got women like that. You got women who don't want to just be a housewife or, you know, stay at home and deal with the children and stuff. They actually
that's more common in where we live now today. Because let's think about it. Most people, we're going to have a show about, like, you know, whether you should marry an American woman, and we'll talk about those things. But let's say most people that listen to this, it's going to be an American man marrying an American woman, right? And now there's certain things that are ingrained in us, and I'm speaking to the women now. There's certain things that have been ingrained in you that you feel you have to achieve just to be like, I did something good with my life, right? Like this whole negative connotation that, like, you can't be a successful person if you're just a housewife, right? And now we're having narratives and content coming, like, going against those beliefs. But a lot of us have in our minds, like, I have to get a college degree, otherwise I'm a loser, right? Now, being like, for instance, my wife has multiple degrees, and recently she just went through, like, in Mubarak knows, like, the get a nursing degree, and all the study and time it takes to, like, do clinicals and then tests and then all these different things. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and now, you know, us men, we want our attention. We want our, like, you know, when I'm back home from work, I want, like, you know, I want you to pay attention to me. So it's a lot of sacrifice has to be made by all family members for people to achieve degrees. Even on my end, me getting a degree, like, she wants my attention too. But no, I got to go get on the computer, you know. So now let's think about that. Now you actually put that in the time that you're not with your spouse to pursue these things, because you literally could be a stay-at-home mom, have a doctorate, have a side business and a part-time job, and it not affect your relationship with your spouse whatsoever.
100% accurate. 100% accurate. Go ahead, Mubarak.
And
I get excited thinking about the possibilities of just simple cooperation.
The benefits for the women are overwhelming, but let me give it something for the men, because the benefits for the women is probably about 10 to 1 when it comes to as far as benefits. If you do it properly, what the woman can take advantage of versus the men is probably 10 to 1. But let's give the men something here.
Yeah. So
if the men are thinking, okay, what am I gonna get out of getting another wife? Besides the fact that, okay, there's an intimacy aspect, we really don't need to discuss that much because everybody knows what that is. But the one thing that you will, I can't say for 100%, but if you get a second wife or a third, when the level of service that you will get in all areas is going to skyrocket, because the competition between the two. So if your wife doesn't necessarily pay attention to you as much or whatever, now you might take it as a negative, but they are going to be looking to make you happy, and they're going to be looking to outperform that other woman as far as you liking to spend time with them. It's not just about sex, it's about everything. You know, when you say, you know, they're going to make that breakfast you like or whatever it might be. So just the way, and they become, even if, I'm not saying that if you have a wife and she's already nice, you might think, well, she's already nice to me, get another wife. Well, she will go to another level. Well, you be like, I didn't even know you could get here. Like, it's to the point where it can bring the very, very best out of a woman who's already doing really well for you. You really are like, she's outstanding. You get a co-wife with her, she automatically, that natural instinct of competition will kick in. Now, I'm not talking about the negative stuff where they're trying to sabotage each other. Just a matter of, okay, he's here. This is my time with him. He's going to enjoy his time, and he's going to have a stress-free environment. And then you wind up just bouncing back and forth between he's been at one, and they're just trying to really make sure that you like them when you're with them. And so it actually can be really, really, really enjoyable for everybody, because then you become very appreciative of how much better you're being treated, even though you didn't realize that you could be treated better.
Yeah.
They have another gear. Listen, everyone's wives, they have another gear that they can go to, even though you think, wow, she's treating me really well. There's another level that she can get to without a doubt. And sometimes another co-wife is going to bring that out of them, and they will turn that femininity up to another level, and turn that level of service up to another level, and turn just that cooperation, that agreeableness, that submissiveness all the way up to another level, to where it can be really enjoyable. So that's one of the things for men. You can definitely, that is one benefit you can get. Or even if you have a wife who is not agreeable, you might like her, you might love her or whatever, but she's not necessarily agreeable. She doesn't really pay that much attention to you. She's kind of like iffy, you know, when it comes to, you know, when you want to spend time with her, hey, she's got a headache and this, that, and other. You'll never have a headache. No woman will ever have a headache or be sick, or, you know what I mean, not feel like it never. Once you get a second wife, that stuff will never happen. It'll never happen. And I'll just leave it there.
I would say this too, to piggyback on what you're saying about the benefits for a man. If you're someone who actually likes kids, you know, I happen to be a man that likes kids. I enjoy kids. I do not mind having kids, or, you know, if you're somebody who wants more kids, let's say your first wife caps out at 3 or 4 kids, you know what I'm saying? But you want, you know, maybe 3 or 4 more kids. You want a few more boys. This is a big benefit as well. And like you were saying earlier from the outset, you don't have to necessarily step out. You can just, you know, of course, there are some nuances. You got to select correctly, and it has to be a match and someone who's compatible with your situation. But you can bring on another wife, and then you guys can have children. The children can then build a bond. So a lot of us, you know, I come from a wide array of polygamous situations myself. You feel what I'm saying? Like, you know, I'm not going to get into no detail, but I got all type of brothers and sisters. And over here where I'm at right now in Virginia, I'm one of the older brothers. But on the Philly side, you know, I'm from Philadelphia. I was born in Philadelphia. I'm actually one of the younger brothers. You feel what I'm saying? So it's just a wide array of, you know, spectrums there. And again, if you're someone who likes kids and enjoys kids and wants to build that type of communal atmosphere and stuff like that, it's very beneficial.
I'm gonna mention one more benefit for the men, and then we can start getting into questions, and you guys can add any other points you guys have. Well, also as men, one of the things that we may not realize as men that we enjoy, and we sometimes mix it up for like we're seeking maybe sex or intimacy, is just to enjoy the interaction between a man and a woman, right? So a lot of men, you see them like do this at work, like they just have like friends and they want to interact and talk and like a little flirtatious and sexual tension, and that's just like you just enjoy that company, not that interaction, conversation. Well, guess what? Now you can seek that in a way that's actually under your roof, so that you actually don't have to go to work or go to the gym or go somewhere else to kind of like seek that interaction. And then for men that like may not have, and I'm not saying it's sexual or anything, but like even if you have sisters that you enjoy that friendship with, like I'm real close to my sisters or my cousins, we're like, it's just a different dynamic than just having conversations with guys all the time and seeing different perspectives. So like when men get in polygamous situations, you want to up your game on almost every level. As far as like, we could talk about emotional intelligence, we could talk about managing finances, we could talk about, having different perspectives on how to deal with people and all these different things that will actually make you like a top tier individual, right? And it'll help you be a better work. Like you'll go to your career, like they'll notice the difference between you and people that aren't in your situation because you just know how to handle certain things and deal with people. It literally puts you up a notch on every level. Even like with physical fitness, right? When do men, we should do a survey, but when do men get in the most shape? When they're trying to like impress a woman. Oh, I'm in the gym, I'm doing all these sit-ups, I'm starving myself, gotta get the six pack. Well, guess what? You add someone to that mix, you're not gonna be like, I got this, Joan, I'm good. You know what? You're gonna want to impress. You'll want to keep on impressing, right? So there's so many different benefits. Mubarak was saying, I'm going to start looking to see if there's any questions in our chat, and if you have anything, go ahead.
I'll just say this. Another thing, when it helps the men level up, I would say that it actually, if polygamy or polygyny, where men would have not more than one girl, but more than one wife, one in which they are like in this country, like in a Muslim country, or when Sharia is there, then that's common. But for instance, if you take America, for instance, wherever you're at, if it was common and acceptable and something that people did like regularly, it would actually force men to become elite. It would force them to so much better. And I'll give you an example. For instance, there's 3 of us here, right? There's 3 of us here. Now, just imagine if there were 3 women available. Did you realize that one of us could get all the women? So, for instance, let's do Jafar, for instance, because all the ladies like Jafar. So there's 3 women available. Jafar could get all 3 of those women. What is that going to make me and Hussein do? We have to make ourselves look. We have to try to compete with him in some way. So it's going to do 2 things, actually. So if Jafar or people like him can get all of the women, it would leave someone like me to really, I have to do something. If I'm not as smart as him, maybe I'm not as light skinned as him or dark skinned as Hussein, or whatever it might be, I got to do something. So either I got to let go of my money, I got to, get in the gym, lift weights, try to look better or whatever, increase my education, whatever. So I'm going to have to keep leveling up to the point where Jafar, maybe he's definitely going to get 1. Maybe he's going to get 2. Then me and Hussein are left just trying to get the last girl. Or, but the point is that when the very best men can then get all of the women, it makes those men who haven't peaked out in their potential. They know I cannot be lazy. I have to get my education, or I have to develop a skill. I have to stay in shape. Otherwise, I have no chance for the woman, that type of woman that I want, or I'll be left with the women that no one wants. So this would force every man to try to reach the level where those top men are that are getting all the women. So that's number 1. And then what it also will do is the women, you then wind up having lots more leverage because supply and demand. For instance, if there's 3 women available, Jafar marries 1, there's 2 left, he can still marry the next 2. Me and Hussein are now competing. What are we going to do? There's 2 left. Now, if he marries 2 of them, then there's 1 left. The competition between me and Hussein, just trying to get 1, and then still have to outdo Jafar for the last one, is going to make us then offer her more. Jafar says, I'll get you a house in the suburbs or whatever. I'm saying, I'll get you a house in the suburbs and an apartment in the city. And I'm going to get you a car. And I'm going to have a maid for you. I'm going to be offering her more services to try to match what Jafar would have. Hussein would do the same thing. So if it's very common for the women to, instead of just selecting a man because I have my own husband, instead I want the best one, that would make all of us try to be the best or offer them more services and amenities and benefits to try to match what we lack in just ourselves. So the woman, actually, if polygamy becomes more prevalent, the women actually gain more leverage. You gain more leverage, and it makes the men that you have to choose from better because they're competing with the top men, and they're also competing to try to offer you more benefits to choose them instead of, you know, the one guy. So this is the thing that I see where that there's actually zero negatives. There's zero negatives for society's sake. For the overall society, there's no negatives to polygyny at all. They're all benefits. Now, on an individual level, that's a different story. But if you look at this, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. It should be widespread.
And it's something that is, like Jaffer had mentioned, this is actually getting practiced all across the states, all across the country, regular, normal. A lot of people just don't know that they're in it, and a lot more don't want to come to terms with the reality of the situation. They would rather be on the side or on the low, but the reality is still the reality. You're in that network. You're in that bubble. You feel what I'm saying? If 2 or 3 women are after this one man, that is a form of what we're talking about, polygamy. You feel what I'm saying? That's a form of it. Of course, it's not the good form, but that is a form. You know, you guys can just, you guys can make that better. You guys can bring honor to those type of situations by simply making it what it needs to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's a it's a bastardized form. Really, it's because it's not practiced properly. Then it actually causes problems. It causes more issues there. But if it's done properly, like we're saying, then there's only benefits.
The man has no commitment. You know, he's not getting his feet held to the fire. He can just sleep around with the women, do all these different things. If he wants to step out, he can step out. He wants to go back to his main squeeze, he can go back to his main squeeze. There's no commitment here. You know, that's a problem.
So real quick, let's get into the questions. We got a lot that came in. So the first one we have is this was a great discussion about this subject. Tell me, why do you get married again? Why do men get married again anyway? Why do men get married again? Like, what's the purpose or what's the reason?
I mean, I think we covered the reasons. I mean, if you want more children, if you want, if you just, you know, you men naturally are monogamous, are polygamous, not monogamous by nature. Men are naturally like that. So men are always. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your husband tells you. He would like to experience intimacy with another woman or several others. I mean, it doesn't matter. He's not going to act on that, but that's just what men do. So if a man can, he will.
Yes.
That's just what it is.
Okay.
As in, if a man can have sex with another woman without consequences, he will.
Right. Next question is why do some men allow the fear of getting a second wife deter them from doing it and instead decide to cheat? Well, this is a very interesting psychological thing. And you're gonna mostly blame the men for this. But actually, the women are to blame for this because for some reason, many women would rather their husband cheat than get a second wife. And it's maybe because of societal pressures or whatever. Like they'd rather their husband, like I've seen it. The majority of women I've talked to about this subject, they will be okay with their husband committing adultery, cheating, having kids out of wedlock. But as soon as that same husband comes back and says, hey, I want to do it right. I want to take on a second wife. They will burn the house down. So maybe, and I don't know the exact reason for it, but maybe because these men don't want to commit to something. But in my opinion, I think it's because we have learned as men as a whole have learned that it's easier and less consequences with the first wife to just cheat instead of actually come and do it the right way.
And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. If more women, let's say you have a really good relationship with your woman, you know, your wife, and you shouldn't have to have that fear of being able to come and talk with her about this. A lot of men don't want to, I don't even know why I would call it fear. We don't want to deal, like you said, with the consequences, the hassle, her mind running a million miles per hour thinking, well, is he doing this? He's doing that. He's doing this. He can't even come to you. You're not giving him that space to be able to communicate his thoughts, communicate his feelings. And maybe he's really trying to protect himself. Maybe he doesn't want to step out and cause you harm. But women, y'all just don't allow for this. And like I said, y'all will literally prefer the other way. And that's way more destructive. But again, it coddles y'all feelings. It kind of
maybe we could do a like an add-on show, or because there's a whole show we could do on the benefit of a woman being involved with, or being intimately involved in actually finding her husband another wife.
Yeah. So I got a question real quick.
Let me address before we move on to that. I just want to address this, John. Why men are afraid to, and I would say that a man should never be afraid to tell his wife that he either is going to get another wife, or he's thinking of, or he wants to. And I would. This is here goes a test for any man. When your wife, because a lot of times they do. Whenever they see a couple or people a man who has more than one wife, or they see, the topic comes up, women almost always ask their husband, "You want to get another wife, or would you think about it? Would you do it, or whatever?" You know what I always say? Whenever that question will come up, yes, yes. I tell them straight up, even if I'm not even thinking about it or considering it, I always say yes, I am. Now, when they ask the question, "Do you think she's ready, or do you think that girl's ready?" I never answer, because I'm not going to direct it to anyone specific. But I never let you sit there and be like, "Well, oh no, it's just you and me, baby, whatever." You're giving up leverage. And that's another show number one. But I will say that a test for any man to see how much I don't want to say control or leverage, but see where you really are in the relationship, and how strong you are as a man. When your wife, if you have one wife, when she says, "Would you marry a second wife?" If you can look her in the face and say, "Yes, yes, I do want a second wife, and yes, if I see someone that it would be appropriate for me and my situation and for the family, yes, I will." And keep a straight face. Don't laugh, and don't make it seem like it's a joke or whatever. And see if you can stand in, because then they might get emotional, they might do whatever. But if you can, every time that topic comes up, you can make sure they know that this is not just a possibility, but it's something that's natural, it's normal, and they should be prepared for it. Because what happens a lot of times is, when a man is not mentally able, he's not financially able, he's not able to do it in a certain point in his life. But as you get older, your money starts to get there, and your ability to actually handle that gets there. And then you've been telling your wife for 10 years, "No, I will never do it. It's just me and you." Now she believes that. But if you tell them from day one, or even when you're discussing marriage, "Will you marry me?" or whatever, they discussing the marriage and all those things that you discussed before you actually married a woman. "Would you take a second wife?" Yes. If she says, "Well, I'm not going to marry you," don't marry her. Don't marry her.
Let me push back a little bit. I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I will just say that we know that most men are in monogamous situations. Can we agree on that?
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Most men, you mean like on paper?
Like, yeah.
On paper, but they still cheat. They still cheating. Most men are still cheating. Because let me just say this. Most men, that they might have one wife, but every girl that goes by, they're looking and staring. Yeah, they're watching pornography. And this is what I always tell women. They always say, my man would never, my man, would never cheat. I say, does he look away when a pretty girl is on the screen, or when, oh yeah, but there's nothing wrong with looking. That means he is not able to, but he would, and he will if he can.
Hold on. Yeah, I agree. That's what I was trying to say. You cut me off, Mubarak. I didn't get that.
I'm sorry.
I know what you're saying. I agree with that. We're talking about, on paper, most men are in monogamous relationships. But we also know, because we're men, we're all polygamous by nature. So when you were saying, I just think that a man should be able to tell his wife, yes. Most of us not going to be able to do that. We understand the ramifications of that.
We think we can't, but we actually can.
I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about, but
yeah.
I would like hearing my brothers, some of my brothers, they'd be like, man, I ain't thinking. And I know these guys.
They're doing. So here's the thing that we're gonna. A lot of these things are so deep, but when we start actually getting into relationships and what men should be doing, especially with their wives, as a man with your wife, you should be constantly trying to help your wife become a better person. That's part of our role as husbands and leaders of the family, right? And if you are a man that can't speak truth to your significant other, and also you are afraid to tell them things that's actually going to help prepare them to be a better woman, and you're afraid to do that, you're doing this service not only to yourself, but to her. Because as Mark already said, you may never ever get in polygamy, but the gears and the chemical changes and all the things that she's going to have to go through in her head to accept the idea that, okay, my husband is polygamous. It's actually going to benefit you in your relationship. That little bit of headache that you're going to have to deal with, it's actually going to benefit you.
We got a term where some of us, who I guess have successful relationships, I guess we call it that, but we would see some of our peers or some of our brothers, and we just be saying that they're getting terrorized into submission by their by their significant others. Like, for instance, so to give an example, if someone comes to my home, right? Let me use me. If someone comes to my home, they already know what it is. You know what I'm saying? I'm not acting like I'm sweet or nothing, but most people are comfortable coming to my home, knocking on my door, and actually being let in. Then you'll have situations where, some of my companions, they already know which house not to go to. You know what I'm saying? Understand, if they knock on the door, somebody can come peeking through the, the door. They understand who's running that household, who's getting terrorized into submission. And you have a lot of men who, quite frankly, are not able to, like you said, John,
for them, because we gotta get through these questions. For them, keep watching the show, keep watching our show, keep tuning in. We have a question here that says real quick, that says, you men act like you are perfect instead of always acting like you are perfect, I guess. Tell us what mistakes you guys have made, or what problems, areas do you have, or you are perfect. So we just to answer this, you guys can chime in real quick if you want. This isn't a real question. We can just address real hit, but we're not perfect. We said from our beginning inception to the end that we have made mistakes. We continue to make mistakes. The only difference I think that separates us three from a lot of other people is that we actually own up to them, accept them, and try to learn from them. Like, we consult each other all the time, and Mubarak's like, "Oh, Jafar, don't do this," or "You should have done that," and we do this all the time. So we're always making mistakes. We're not perfect, but because of our mistakes that we have made, because of issues that we have dealt with and continue to deal with, we are actually sitting in a good spot to actually help people that are going to go through the same things, right?
Yeah,
so that's.
I'm gonna put this out here. I'm just going to tell you right now, we are men that are actually in the trenches. We have boots on the ground right now. We have our soldiers storming the shores normally right now. You feel what I'm saying? So we understand what's going on, and no, we're not those type of people that try to pretend like we're perfect. We really want to give information, true information, and real information. We have boots on the ground right now, and we can tell you
a lot of questions coming in. This is a.
And the thing is, and it's also, I would say that we're not perfect, but collectively, we probably have made every single mistake, or majority of mistakes we can make. We literally made them already. Like, we did it and survived. So we're it's okay, everybody's trying to get to the top of this little plateau here. We did it all the wrong ways. And sometimes we found the right way, and we're like, okay, we already went that way. We did that already. We did that. We did this. This is what actually worked. So now people are at the bottom, and a lot of people have tried and failed all the way down to the bottom. Some people are halfway or whatever, and we're at the top. We can see the whole joint. Come around this way, or go that way, or actually this seems harder to do, but do it this way. It'll actually be faster. So it's not that we're perfect. We didn't been shot up, beat up, slashed and dashed or whatever, and made it. So we're like, yo, you can listen to our experiences so that, number one, you don't have to take all this heavy gunfire. You can actually get through it, hopefully unscathed or not as bad as we did. And you can still get to a point where we can say that we've reached a point where, alhamdulillah, it's good. But it wasn't easy to get there. And we now, looking back on it, there's an easier way to it. That's what we're saying. We're not saying that we're perfect.
Let me put a bow on this. Let me put a bow on what you're saying right now. We are all in successful marriages. We have 10 to 15 years plus actually some of us 20 years, 2 decades. We can tell you all about this because we're experiencing it. So we're coming from certain talking points. We're actually coming from a point of experience. So
yeah, I don't know how many years ago. I'm 45 now, so and I don't know the math, but I've been married to a majority of my life. So,
and let me just give a quick anecdote, because on the thing where Hussein was talking about people getting terrorized into submission and what house to go to or not, I'll give you an example. Like in my city, people like so you run into some people, and it's like almost like the stuff of legends that people talk about, because a lot of people are afraid of, just in America, they're afraid of telling their wife they want another wife, or even doing it. They're just struggling, failing, or whatever. Because an American culture is just not common. So so anyway, a brother comes to my house once, and this was years ago. He came to my house, and he walks in. He came to do some work, so he needed to do some work on the house or whatever. So I was there. I'm sitting in a chair. My wife is braiding my hair. One of my other wives is in the kitchen cooking something. Now, he could not believe that this is possible. Like, he just was almost like in shock. Like, who are you, man? And I'm like, I'm not a Superman or anything. But number one, this is why I say I never told any woman that it was just going to be you and me. Like when I got married, before I ever got married the first time, it was always a situation where I told them straight up. At the time, I did not know that this would be a benefit for me. I just was a person who was like, just didn't care. I'm like, yeah, I might marry this other person. Just being a kind of, not a jerk, but didn't realize, but being this way and saying, hey, listen, I like women, okay? I like you, but I also might like that one or that one. And that's just it. If you like me, that's cool. And every time it's like, all right, they already knew. So it wasn't an issue where I had to be the person who getting terrorized into submission. I mean, they might try sometimes, but the thing is, I was already built for that. And it's a thing where and I get so many messages from people on the side. They're like, yo, man. And sometimes people are like, I'm thinking about, getting a second wife. How do you do it? And I'm like, how do I tell my wife? I'm like, if you got to ask how you tell her, then you ain't ready. You just got to tell her. You just got to say it.
Hey, I'm going to be honest. Teach us your ways, Mubarak. Teach me your ways. Incredible. You told me before, but I'm literally still like, yo.
We touched on it, but we're going to have to do like a whole week seminar on the topic of leverage.
But it really is. But and I will say, just to the last person's question about we thinking we're perfect, I'm not perfect, because I can tell you when that brother came to my house, he then ran and told everybody he knew, and I became some sort of legend, and then came and wreaked havoc inside of my house after that, because just because of outside pressure and people because no one really knew that, and everyone was fine until the people started talking and whispers and stuff and whatever, and it didn't wind up causing an issue. So that's the lesson that I learned. Don't let nobody up in your house and really see what. Otherwise, they might, the whispers and the issues come in from the outside. A lot of times, sometimes women, they cause issues in polygamous situations is because because of the culture, they're embarrassed. Oh, my husband, girl, you let your husband get another man? What? She was at your house cooking? What? When really it's like, it's no good. I don't have to cook today. That's really what, at that time, your wife is thinking, I don't even have to cook today. She cooked everything today, and I was able to relax and braid my husband's hair. On the other tip, now it becomes an issue because all the other women, they start seeing that as a threat. I don't want my husband to think that's ever going to happen with me, even though it would be a benefit to him. I could go on and on, but I'll stop there. But that's just
real quick. What I'm going to do, and if you guys are okay with it, this just dawned on me, because we want to keep our shows at an hour and we're almost there, but we do have a lot of questions that came in. So what we're going to do is we're going to take like a 1 or 2 minute break. We're going to sign off of this show, and then we're going to post another show to come on. We're just going to do the rest of the questions and then end the show. That way, one show's an hour, the other one will be like another 15 minutes. So it doesn't dissuade people from clicking on the link. So you guys cool with that?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm down.
Yeah, yes,
okay. So everybody, this has been the show on polygamy, the benefits for men and women. The next show, if you guys are not listening to this live, We're gonna have another video that's gonna be right after this. If you want to hear the rest of the questions and answers, please keep the questions coming in. It's like every time I click on the link, more and more are popping up, and we're gonna address those. For those that are listening with us live right now, this show will end, but another notification will come up for another show. It's going to be Polygamy Q&A, and just hop back on so you can hear the rest of the discussion. See you guys in a couple.